Hey book besties, it's Maria and let's talk about my 2026 r/fantasy bingo card. So I was 2 days ago years old when I found out that r/fantasy has been doing an annual bingo card that runs from 4/1 to 3/31 every year for like years. And I needed to get in on this because if you've been following me for a while, you know that I do a monthly bingo card for my to-do list. So having a TBR list as a bingo card is so totally me. I did my best to slot as many books that are already on my TBR onto this bingo card as possible. But I did have to add a few because the whole goal of this TBR challenge that r/fantasy does is to kind of force you to expand your horizons a little bit. That said, as a reader who kind of reads a little bit of everything, I didn't surprise myself a whole lot with a few of these. So, Editing Maria is going to put a r/fantasy bingo card on the screen somewhere. And we're going to go through my choices for it. By the way, I'm sorry. I am very likely to mess up authors' names. Sorry. It's not purposeful. It's just poor research on my part. So the first square is to read a book that has a trans or a non-binary character. I chose The Raven Tower by Ann Leckie. This was one that I added to my TBR because even though I do have quite a long TBR, I don't know if any of my books that I have on my TBR do have a trans or a non-binary character, and I didn't want to individually look up 200 books just to find one. So anyway, I found a recommendation for one on r/fantasy and I added it. The next square is to judge a book by its title, and I chose You Can't Spell Treason Without T, which sounds super cute. And I did pick it up almost exclusively for the title in the first place, so I just slotted this one into that kind of, it's kind of a wild card space to me, because anything you can judge a book by its title, so there you go. The next square is to choose a book that is translated from a non-native language to the reader. So this is a little bit different to everybody, but as an English speaker and reader, I chose a book called A Magical Girl Retires. It was originally written in Korean and it sounds super up my alley. This one was one of the books that I added to my TBR that wasn't there before. And it's not that I don't have other translated books on my TBR, but I put them in other places. For my small press or self-published square, I chose a book by S.L. Rowland, and it is Cursed Cocktails. This one has been on my TBR for a very long time, and I'm super excited to read it. The Unusual Transportation square, I might end up having to substitute this, but I chose God of Gnomes, specifically because the cover has a gnome riding a honey badger. And I believe that someone riding a honey badger counts as unusual transportation, even for fantasy. For the Afterlife square, I decided to read For Whom the Bell Tolls. I don't know a lot about this book, but it's been on my TBR for a while, and I saw another booktuber put this one in the same square, so she probably doesn't know that I'm doing this, so it's kind of like a little secret buddy read on my part. The next square is called Game Changer, and this one is for some sort of like competitive game. So, like a book like The Hunger Games would fit. So I decided to choose book 3 in the Crucible series that hasn't come out yet. It's called The Wrath Gods Reap. I recently finished book 1 and 2 in the series, and I'm really looking forward to book 3, so I'm hopeful that I'll be able to, pick it up when it releases later this year, and read it pretty quick to get it off of my TBR. Next square is Vacation Spot, and this one is again a unique one to whoever's reading. But I decided that the vacation spot that I think about most is Japan. So I decided to read Will Prescribe You a Cat by Seo Ishida. Funny story, this book has been on my TBR for ages. And I'm just now getting to it. I'm sorry. The next square is for 5 short stories, and I chose to read scholarly Pursuits. It was an anthology published last year by Duck Prince Press. And one of my real life personal friends was published in it. And so I bought a copy of it, and so I'm just going to pick 5 random short stories from it, including my friends, and I'm going to read those 5 as my 5 short stories. For older protagonist, I'm going to be reading Kings of the Wild, and this one is one that I kind of added to my TBR. It's actually sitting on a bookshelf downstairs, but it's my husband's copy of the book, so I might just be aggressively relocating it for a while. The next square is for Duology, Part 1. And this has been on my TBR forever, and it's time that I finally just read it. So I put 6 of Crows on here by Leigh Bardugo. I think I saw one of the episodes of it on Netflix or something at one point and was very intrigued, and I just need to I need to read it at this point. Just get it over with. This next square is another one where there's a very long list of choices, but it's also very finite. You need to find an r/fantasy book club or read a long book. And I filtered through them for quite a while before settling on The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. This one's been on my TBR for a while, and I'm looking forward to getting to it. The next square is a fun one. It's published in 2026. So quite a lot of books to choose from. I chose one that I'm actually going to have to read quite a few books for, which is kind of funny. But book 5 of the Heretical Fishing series is coming out, or actually the ebook came out a little while ago, but the audiobook is coming out either late this month or next month. So I am looking forward to jumping into that, but I have to read the other ones first. The next one is a book about explorers and rangers. So I actually have quite a few copies of The Legend of Drizzt, and I started to read Streams of Silver a long time ago, and so I'm just going to restart that book, and that will be my next book in the series and my Explorers and Rangers, and then I'll be that much closer to actually finishing all of my Drizzt 25th anniversary big tomes that have 3 and 4 copies of books from that series in it. The next one is Duology Part 2. And Hard mode for this is choose a different duology, but since I don't read a lot of duologies, I have a tendency towards either standalones or like trilogies. I just was like, you know what, I'm going to plan on finishing Six of Crows. I'm not going to start another duology for this. For my one-word title book, I chose Hellfire by Mariel Pomeroy. I actually have no memory about what this book is about. I remember adding it to my TBR kind of spontaneously because I liked the cover, and I don't know what it's about at all, so I'm going into it completely blind. For my non-human protagonist, I'm adding Voice of the Ocean by Kelsey Mpichike. I follow her on YouTube, and this one's been on my TBR for a little while, so I'm finally going to get to it. For middle grade, unfortunately, I can't decisively add Percy Jackson to this list. Otherwise, I would have added Percy Jackson Book 8 to this. But there is no formal announcement for when Book 8 is coming out. Otherwise, it would have been decisively here. So instead, one of my author friends has published a middle grade series, and it apparently sells really well at the art shows and vendor events that he goes to in person, but it doesn't sell super well online. Long story short, I'm going to be reading what he calls the fart book. And the book one of this is The Curse of King Toot. So it's clearly going to be some just crass, silly humor for young kids. For the next one, First Contact, I think that everyone's all thinking that I'm going to have the same book. That said, I've already read that book, so I cannot add Project Hail Mary. That said, I do get a reread, but I've already read it. I feel very confident I don't need to reread it right now. Maybe in a few years, but not right now. So I added Blind Sight by Peter Watts. This one has been on my TBR for a couple of months for book research purposes, and I'll just leave it at that. For my murder mystery, I added The Busybody. This one is actually in a hardcover downstairs on my shelf. I have been looking forward to reading this one for a while, and I'm going to make time for it this year. Next, the next square is called Cat Squasher, and this is defined as any book over 500 pages, and for those of you interested in what the hard mode for this is, it's any book over 900 pages. Next month, Matt Dinneman releases the next book in his Dungeon Crawler Carl series, so I will be reading A Parade of Horribles. I'm so looking forward to this. The audiobook is always my favorite thing of the year. Last year, book 7, This Inevitable Ruin, almost broke me. I actually had to pause my audiobook and take a few laps to calm down because it was that dark in places. That said, I'm so looking forward to book 8, and I need to know how this series ends. For the Feast Your Eyes on This square, these are books that are specifically like themed or centered around food, and hard mode for this one is to attempt to cook the thing that this is centered around. I will not be doing that. That said, I am going to be reading A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking by T. Kingfisher. I have had this book on my TBR for a while. I've been wanting to find out if I even like Kingfisher's writing, so I think this is a good time to do that. The next square is for books published in the 70s. The Other by, and I'm going to mess this one up, Thomas Trian. This book is another book that has been on my TBR for research purposes. Once again, we're just leaving it at that. I'm super excited to read this one because it's kind of one of the first books of its kind, and it really established a very specific genre. For the politics and court intrigue square, I added Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. If you've been on my channel for a little while, you've seen my Dark Academia Scholarmance trilogy review, and ever since finishing those books, I've wanted to know if I like all Naomi Novik books or if it was just those ones I enjoyed. So I'm going to try another book by her. And this last one is to choose a book by an author of color. I chose The Judas Blossom by Stephen Aryan, who is originally born in Iran. So I think that counts. I actually read a couple of books by Stephen Aryan last year, and I really enjoyed them, so I'm hoping that I enjoy The Judas Blossom just as well. It's a retelling, I guess is the best way to say it, of Persian or Mongolian history. Maybe both. Sorry, it's been a little while since I read the description of that one, but I have a physical copy of that one and I'm looking forward to reading it. So I'm really excited about my new TBR. A lot of these are books that have already been on my TBR, but also now I'm going to try and prioritize them a little bit, which they weren't before. And also I did add a few. I think I added 5 that I wasn't planning on reading previously, so that's awesome. And I'm really excited to dive into it this year. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Share your r/fantasy TBRs down below, and I'm excited to see you next time. Bye for now.